Hi there, Veronica from Fleshgod Apocalypse, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2024 album review. And today we're going to be talking about the new album from the band Fleshgod Apocalypse entitled Opera, which is out now through Nuclear Blast Records. For those of you who aren't familiar with Fleshgod Apocalypse, they're a symphonic death metal band from Italy, been around since 2007. And for me, Fleshgod Apocalypse are one of my all-time favorite bands. And I think I've seen almost every tour they've done here since 2016. And I've seen them now 5 times, including the 2 times I saw them earlier this year on the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise, which was awesome. And they've been putting out albums since, of course, their debut album in 2009, or Goals, which I thought was a really great debut. And that was more, they were just straightforward, kind of like brutal death metal. No, but since I believe that Labyrinth, they definitely added more of the orchestral elements, which is pretty much solidified the whole Fleshgod Apocalypse sound. And this, of course, is the band's 6th full-length album, and this follows up their previous album, which came out in 2019, Veleno, which I thought was a pretty good album, definitely one of my favorite albums from that year. But here we are, almost 5 years later, with the release of Savat Opera. Does it kind of exceed or live up to what Veleno has? In my opinion, I think it definitely has. I think the band really just stepped up the production on here. I know this album is pretty much inspired by a couple years ago when Francesco Poli, the frontman, got into like a rock climbing accident, which almost costed his life. Which I'm glad he was able to recover it, and he's still kicking ass. And that whole kind of experience really is like the whole vibe behind it. Like when I actually had interviewed him, in a way, this is kind of a concept. This is a concept album talking about his experience with sort of and everything. You could definitely feel it within the music, and the production on this album is amazing. Like Fleshgod Apocalypse on this album definitely knows how to fit like in with it, like each instrument within like the context of the song. And then the vocal work from Francesco Poli, his harsh vocals I feel like have gotten a lot better. And the way he conveys like the messages or sort of like the emotion behind it is just amazing. A lot of people say that when death metal vocalists, like when you hear it, it just sound like pissed off and angry, and I think that's total bullshit. You can also feel a sense of like sorrow and a bit of sadness and more kind of like excitement within the screams. Like it doesn't always have to be fucking angry all the time. And then the clean vocals from Veronica Bortocini. And I think she really stepped up with the clean vocals, and her opera singing is just amazing. And she definitely stepped it up after, of course, longtime bassist and clean vocalist Paolo Rossi had left the band earlier this year. And I was kind of worried how it would affect the chemistry, and I think Veronica really does a great job handling all the clean vocals, and her and Francesco's vocals just complement each other perfectly. The guitar work on this album is tight. Francesco comes up with some sick riffs, and then Fabio definitely comes up with some really great lead playing and just sick soloing all around. And then the bass playing on this album is pretty audible. I feel like Francesco Poli took up now the role of bass playing, especially with live, and he definitely has like a great mix. And then the keyboards from Francesco Ferreni, and his piano playing is really great. I think, in my opinion, he's a great composer, especially how he also adds like a lot of the strings and orchestral elements to Fleshgod Apocalypse. It really stands out. And then the drumming from Eugene Rybachenko his definitely keeps a solid beat, and the blast beats on here are just fucking amazing. So yeah, rambled on for about 4 minutes, so let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Ode to Art de Sepulchre, and right from the get-go, I really am amazed by Francesca Ferreni's like piano playing, and I think just like the string arrangements and the orchestral effects are really great. It definitely sets the whole mood and vibe for opera, which I think is just pretty much repeated throughout the whole album. And I really like how Veronica's haunting vocals really here, which sets the stage. And then when Francesco Poli's death metal growls go, it really sets you in, knowing that you're in a treat for this album. Then we go into I Can Never Die. Now, right from the get-go, I was not disappointed. Francesco's vocals and lyrics have a great, intense depth to it, and it really just keeps you hooked all throughout. Next up is Pendulum. Now, I love sort of like this song. It pretty much has like the core elements to Fleshgod Apocalypse, just the great orchestration, the sheer brutality, and the soaring operatic melodies. And it's just, I don't know, it just definitely has like a great narrative of like survival and resilience right here. And just like the mixing really just has like a great quality and sort of like the depth within the composition. Next song on the album is called Blood Clock, which I believe was the first single released from Opera. Now, this song has like a great mixture of the brutal death metal and the symphonic elements, which has a kind of like a whole vibe of desperation and urgency that cannot be bullshitted at all. And just the music just goes and sways back and forth, which turns corners and fleeing from death itself. And I love how Fleshgod Apocalypse have championed with some great compositional songs, but it's just amazing. Next up is At War With My Soul. Now, this has a great kind of like opera version of Ave Satani from the Omen, and which has a bit of a satanic twist on like a Gregorian check. And then 27 seconds in, you hear with some sick blasts of hardcore death metal in here. It's Francesco just roaring right in here, and it feels like you're just plunged into the dark with this song. And then we go into Morphine Waltz. Now, this song just hits with rapid tempo and sick energy, and Fabio's guitar playing on this song has some really great classical and almost a bit of progressive elements, which has a really dynamic composition. And then, of course, the vocals from Francesco and Veronica really just go really well, and it has a great dynamic between the two. Next up is Matricide. Now, this song, in my opinion, is the most progressive song on here. It transitions smoothly throughout various genres, has the symphonic metal, but then going into like the intense death metal. And this song pretty much cycles back to the operatic elements, showing the great blend of styles that keeps you really just listen and just pay attention all throughout. Next up is Per Aspera ad Astra. Now, this, in my opinion, is the heaviest song on the album. It pretty much showcases the signature death metal and the operatic themes that the band is known for, pretty much took to its full power. And the sheer magnitude is definitely undeniable, which probably makes it a standout on the album. Till Death Do Us Part. Now, this is a very powerful song, very masculine and feminine both at the same time. Definitely has that elements of balance between like the heaviness and sort of like the symphonic elements, and I think they put it off really well. And then we close things out with the title track, Opera, and it definitely has some great piano work from Francesco Ferreni, and then the rest of the band like joins in, and I just think it's a great way to end this album. Now, overall, Opera by Fleshgod Apocalypse is another great album, a great addition to the discography. So if I were to give this album a score, I'm going to give Opera by Fleshgod Apocalypse a solid 10 out of 10. It's really great. I was kind of amazed. So yeah, that's my review of the new album, guys. And I'm actually going to be seeing Fleshgod Apocalypse next month at the Underground in Charlotte, North Carolina, with my boys in Shadow of Intent, Ingested, the Zenith Passage, and I can't remember the other band. So yeah, that'll be September 27th, so hope to see you all there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and as always, keep it metal.